Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Leanne Gomes and I'm a Customer Success Manager here at Pupil Progress. A little bit about me, I've spent over 12 years in large secondaries as a data manager and SLT member before leaving to work in education technology. I am married to a teacher as well who's also a head of department, so it's a bit of a personal battle for me as well to help support teachers and SLT with reducing workload and making systems and processes more efficient. So this afternoon, I'm going to talk you through some of the features within Pupil Progress to support your raising achievement and progress meetings once your data is in the system. Obviously, if I say a RAP meeting or raising achievement and progress meeting, you might call it something different in school. It might be a RAP or a RAB or whatever it might be. It's just that meeting that takes place once all your data is entered. I know we all love an acronym in education. So if I say RAP, that's what I'm referring to. Once I've talked you through some of the features, I'm going to hand you over to the wonderful Mr. Jamie Braddick, who is Deputy Head from the Stonehenge School, and he's going to discuss how he's using some of these features to support his learning, to support raising achievement and progress at his school. Across your settings and how you conduct your raising achievement and progress meetings will inevitably vary across all the schools that are on this session, and whatever documentation you ask your staff to fill in, it's all going to be different because we've got lots of different schools on the session. However, what we typically find is that the conversation tends to be split into two areas. The first being that curriculum data headlines where you're looking at individual class performance compared to cohort and your key demographic performance at subject level. The second part is usually that evaluation where you're really focusing on those intervention students and student groups, as well as the actions going forward. So I'm going to show you how you can use Pupil Progress to make those conversations as efficient and as impactful as possible. After the workshop, you are going to receive an email with a copy of the recording of this workshop, and you'll also find some downloadable resources in there, one of which is a example RAP document, which is annotated with clear instructions for where you can find that data within Pupil Progress to help you get started. Before I share my screen and I share any data, I just want to make it really clear. The data I'm going to show you is all dummy data. It's all from my dummy site. The eagle-eyed amongst you may spot it's from Hogwarts. That's because I'm a big Harry Potter fan. So it's not real student data, but I've tried to make it as realistic as possible for you. Given the time of year, I'm also just going to focus for this example on year 10. I know a lot of you will have upcoming year 10 mocks because you're going to take full advantage of the fact you've got your exam halls set up now. So use those for using those for your year 10 mocks in a couple of weeks. Obviously, though, the tools and functionality and features I'm going to show you work across all year groups and key stages within Pupil Progress. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to show you is snapshots. Once your data is in the system, I recommend you do a snapshot at whole school level. Because Pupil Progress data is live, the snapshot takes a freeze frame moment of your data at that point in time. It means then you can compare snapshots to live data further down the line, and you can compare snapshot to see progress over time. The snapshot will also allow you to publish student reports to the parent and student app, which I'll come to in a bit. So please make sure snapshots are part of your regular working after a data drop. We're going to stay on this screen now as well, which is the key stage 4 grade analysis. This page gives you a broad overview of each student and their individual subject performance. That's RAG coloured against their minimum target grade. And for those of you who are familiar with the trackers, that's exactly the same colour that you see within the trackers at this level as well. So it's consistent throughout the platform. This page for your analysis is broken down into key areas to show you how the qualifications are contributing to your key performance measures. So you can see a summary, your English and maths element, your EBAC and your open buckets all on one page. In the top left, you can also see an overall P8 and A8 score for the cohort that's on your screen. Obviously, for the next couple of years, there's not going to be any official P8 measure. That's fine after this year anyway. At Pupil Progress, we say no P8, no problem. We encourage you to still use this page for the next for those year groups, focusing on those 4+ grade measures and your attainment compared to targets, as well as that A8 score. Now, unless your cohorts are wildly different in your year 9 and 10s compared to current year 11s, that A8 should remain broadly in line. At the top of this page, you can see your data source. It will default to average unit grade, but you can change this in the drop-down to focus on teacher predicted grades or current grades. But for now, we're going to stick with average unit grades. Once that's selected, it will update all that information on the page. You don't need to go anywhere else in the system to then focus and get those bits of data. So you can see on this page already, I've got some tags set up. And now these are examples of whole school tags that have been manually set up using the filters on the page to identify students not meeting basic measure criteria. So you can see here, I've set one up in the example for students who've achieved a grade 4 and above in English and are on a grade 3 in maths. So those are key students that we might want to communicate to the maths teachers. Once that student's been tagged, that tag will be visible for the subject teachers and the trackers, so they can see quickly and easily who those students are without you needing to email them, add them to any documents, go and tell them. They can just see straight away on their trackers that those students have been tagged. Across the top, you can see the average line as well. So you can see across the top row here, the average grade for each subject. Straight away, we can see the maths average grade is over a grade lower than English. So in this example, we're going to jump into maths as our subject level analysis example. But obviously, anything we do in maths, it's going to be the same for the other subjects when you're looking at them. So you can access subject level analysis by the 3-dot menu on the top right, or you can access it from within the tracker, which we're going to do now. Right, so you can see here straight away on the left-hand side, those tags that we were just talking about are visible on this subject tracker for those teachers. And if they hover over that tag, they can see exactly why they've been tagged. So make sure your tags are really clear when you're creating them. You can name them whatever you want. It's a free text field. But that means it's been really easily communicated to those teachers. In the middle, we can see this blue section with the assessment objectives. And you can see the average percentage for each assessment objective, which can highlight quickly any particular low scoring areas. This is great for classroom interventions. We found schools, they tend to use these to target interventions and skill revision within a timetabled lesson, rather than as an additional after school session, which then obviously takes more time. What I'm going to do now is, obviously we're talking about year 10 mocks. So I'm going to open up a non-calculator mock paper as if my year 10s have just sat this. And that is going to be under unit 1. There we go. I can see straight away in the QLA, there are a couple of questions here that most students are not passing because the average mark, which is on the top row, is a 0. I can order that column by clicking on the top to see who those students are. And now this is where I'm going to use the linking feature and functionality within Pupil Progress to share revision resources, particularly around that topic and that question. So you can see that topic's around indices. Apologies if I've said that wrong to any maths teachers. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the linking to share a revision resource specifically for those students. I'm going to go into configure it. It's one I set up earlier, but you can see the setup in here. So you can set this up to any URL. The one I've got here is a BBC bite size, just as an example. And that's going to create an additional link column within the tracker. Sorry, frog in my throat. Once that column's there, I can then tick each of the individual students that I want to be able to access that resource and really target their learning. What this means is you're not relying on the students remembering to write that in their planner. You're not having to give all the students all the resources and then having to tell each student which one is relevant to them. So this means that you can really, really target your feedback and your resources for the students to make sure that they're having the right resources that are going to have the highest impact for them. What it also does, because this if it appears on the parent app as well, it brings the parents into that conversation because they can see what's been shared too. So I'm just going to close that down. And then we're going to go into the subject analysis page. I'm going to go into tools and then into subject analysis at the bottom. So at the top, you can see that we've got the same drop down we saw earlier in the Key Stage 4 grade summary, where you can switch your data source from the average unit grade to teacher predicted grades or current grades. Whatever you change that to, it's going to update all that data on the screen to correspond to that. You don't have to go anywhere else. But for now, we're just going to stick with average unit grades. The page will default to all classes, and you can see a full list of teachers and classes here. If you want to focus on an individual class or multiple classes, if you've got a teacher who may teach two classes in a year group and you're sitting down with them, then you can multi-select and everything on the page will update for you just for those subjects. But for now, we're going to stick with all classes. On the table, you can see your basic measures for each class and their targets. You can see the cohort average across the top, and you can also see at the end how they're performing based on their targets. And those are in the same rag colours as the trackers. It's consistency again with the colours all the way through the system. So you can see here how far away they are from their targets. And underneath that in graph form, we can see that again. So you can see straight away here in classes 1, 2, and 3, there's a lot of students who are more than one grade away from their target grade. Underneath that is a cumulative grade table for the cohort. And then underneath that is a table which breaks down the measures by demographic group for you. So you can see here straight away, you've got your EAL, prior attainers, gender, pupil premium, and that's if your group call synced with us, that's going to be updating. So that's live for you and it's accurate. So you can see the number of those students and how they're performing across there. And so straight away, if we look at our high attainers, we can actually see over here that 83% of high attainers in this example are more than one grade or more, away from target, and which might want to be investigated. So we're going to use that as our example now when I go back in the tracker and show you how to do some tagging. In the bottom of that table, you can see the download button. Now, a little trick here. You can download this table if you wanted to into Excel. That's absolutely fine if you need that for any particular reason. If you're using AI or ChatGPT in schools and you're familiar with that, you can copy and paste that table into ChatGPT and ask it to identify data trends for you. It will then put that into some bullet points and do the analysis for you. Obviously, there is no student identifying data on this table, and there's no school identifying data on this table. So that's just a nice little trick that I have been working with some of my schools if you are comfortable using ChatGPT. I did mention earlier as well, with the resources that we're going to share at the end, there is the instruction and the little prompt that you can use for ChatGPT if that was something you wanted to try out. Now we've identified those high attaining students that are one grade or more off target. What we're going to do is we're going to go back into the tracker and we're going to use the filters to find those students. So the great thing with the filter here is you can multi-layer the filter. So I've used the filter by student to find the fact that they're high attaining. And then I'm using the filter by comparison to MTGs to find those ones that are off targets based on their average unit grade. There they go. So I can see straight away in the topics and the assessment objectives that ratios is only got a pass rate of 50% for high attainers. So that might be something we want to look at. I'm going to look at the mock exam and the QA. And I can see straight away there's a few questions here which are worth quite a few marks, and students aren't even getting half marks. So those are going to be areas that we want to look at with these students. For now, because we've already looked at linking, I'm just going to show you how we tag these students so that they're saved. Once a student is tagged, that means that we can then go back to the tag later on. So we don't have to go through the filters again to find these students. We can just use the tags. I'm going to create a new tag. You can give it any name you like. Again, it's a free text column. Free text field, sorry, not a column. And I'm going to link it back to this tracker. There we go. Nope. Oh, I forgot to press add. That's fine. There we go. And once that has added a tagging column on there for you, that also means in the same way that the tags were communicated from top level down to this tracker, these tags will now be visible on that Key Stage 4 grade analysis. So if you're a member of SLT coming to look at your Key Stage 4 grade analysis, or if you're looking at tags in the system, you can see every single subject that a student has been tagged in and what the description is that a member of staff has tagged them for. On the screen in front of you, you can see two examples of student reports which have come out of Pupil Progress. The one on the left is a summary report which has every subject on one page. And then the one on the right is an individual subject report with topic summaries, average unit grades. They've got their attitude to learning on there. That's ragged against targets. We do recommend that you use these for Parents' Evening. They're a great tool for really shouting about what the students are doing well in, really celebrating that with parents and with students, but also for showing areas that the students can really take ownership of for their own learning as well, areas that they might not be doing so well in. Reports can be individually and bulk downloaded out of the system if you want to print them for Parents' Evenings, if you're sending them home. If you bulk download them and you're using either Arbor or Bromcom, they can be bulk uploaded into your MIS and attached to a student's profile so that they're saved there as well. But what we would recommend is that you use the Pupil Progress student and parent app to share those reports. Now, on the app, those reports will be based on that snapshot, that first thing we did right at the beginning that we took earlier. So it's not the live data in the reports, it's that snapshot from that moment in time that we're sharing with the parents. So I'm going to show you what that looks like on the app now. So they can see all their subject in the list. I'm just going to go into one as an example. So we're going to go into computer science. You can see at the top that student report, and then underneath that useful link that we put there earlier. So they can click on that link and go straight into that resource for them. And that's for student and parents as well. I'm now going to hand over to the amazing Mr. Jamie Braddick so he can talk about his experience at the Stonehenge School.
Okay, good evening everyone. I'm going to share my slides and hope this works. We've used Pupil Progress now for quite a number of years. We started using it when we were in COVID. I wasn't here then. I started as deputy last September, and when I joined the school, we had a decision to make really. We were using it much better at Key Stage 4, and we needed to make a decision about how we moved this to be whole school. And I spent all of last academic year working on the principle that Pupil Progress was going to be our single central point of data entry in both Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4. And that's really important. And it's important that we took the time to do that as well, because a lot of our staff had got used to systems such as their own department trackers that actually were working for them, but weren't allowing us then to build up that whole school data picture. So there was a lot of movement and transition, a lot of breaking from comfort zones for some of our staff, but making it the single central point of data entry has been really impactful for us here at the Stonehenge School. So over the last year really, and I don't know whether you've seen that there is a leaflet pamphlet that Pupil Progress have produced called Best Practice for Elevated Use. And it really summarised all the different things that we use Pupil Progress for. And I think doing as many of those things really is best practice and makes the system work for you much more. And then going into all the different things that Leanne has just been speaking about there. So we mandated that all subjects had to use the system, and we had to find the way in which they would use it, because not all subjects are the same. But if that mandation we brought in, one point of entry, target grades being shared on there, Key Stage 2 scores going in there, using it for learning characteristics. That next one's really important, making sure that staff were confident with data entry and how to manipulate those trackers. It can do so much. So I've literally just been sat here listening to Leanne, and I've just found out something that I didn't know about Pupil Progress. The use of it for ChatGPT, I'd never even thought about that. So making sure that we're confident, but we're also open to that ongoing development on how to use the trackers to get the most out of them. Staff being confident then in what good analysis of data looks like. And one thing that we've done there, we use 4 matrix as well, but actually we've moved away from using both for data analysis, and that if Pupil Progress is our one form of data entry, the leadership team will use 4 matrix for whole school measures, but we will use Pupil Progress, particularly at middle leader level, a lot more. We use tags. I'm quite happy actually with the impact that has had. We were one of the trial schools for the NCFE project, and the impact that had on English and maths results really surprised me. Really effective, really simple, but really effective if the tags that you're using are right. We use the app and use the reports for parents' evenings. The app has been really powerful for us as well. We don't report in any other way. If Pupil Progress is our single central point of entry, then that we use that entry point then to communicate with our parents. And that last one, tracking at Key Stage 3, we spent a year last year, and Pupil Progress are probably one of the best companies that I've worked with in regards to providing an external platform in working with the school. So we use lots of other ones as well for behaviour and attendance. But one thing I really enjoyed doing and valued is that they took the time to work with us as a school, so our trackers worked for us. That they're not standardised. They're more standardised at Key Stage 4, but particularly Key Stage 2, when life without levels, we're all doing different things. Our trackers are built for our school and they work for our school. And the time that was spent on those last year was really worthwhile. But Pupil Progress were fantastic for that. So we've got all of that in place. We have the elevated use. One thing it's allowed us to do then is to fit it into our Raising Achievement agenda. So it's kind of like an 8-step model, really, that we have in place. So it all begins on step 1. We have something called the 4 pillars of assessment: purpose, validity, reliability, feedback, and value. And in department meetings, prior to an assessment happening, the team will sit down with a grid and they will look at whether or not the assessment is worth doing. We don't do assessments for the sake of doing it. We don't do it to weigh the pig. We do it to actually get some workable data that we can then use. So that's the first step, really. Is it worthwhile? Are we going to do something with it? Are we going to feed back to students, and how are we going to do that? Does it hold value? We also have 2 periods of summative assessment every year for every year group. We call those milestone assessments. I wanted to fit the word stone into fit with Stonehenge School. That's where milestone came from. So each year group has 2 per year, and we will use, they're the summative ones. They're the ones that inform the reports and actionable steps that we take whole school. Once the data is entered, we then carry out a snapshot. That snapshot allows us then to draw comparisons from the last data drop. So we've then got the data from when they last did a milestone to this one, and we can see the progress that they've made. So snapshot is the first step that we take. Once we've taken the snapshot, which you need to do to release reports on the app anyway, we release those to parents. And for this year only, we've trialled it with Key Stage 4 students, because students can get the app as well. I will probably just stick with 10 and 11 next year while there's other things that we're working on Key Stage 3 as a school, but eventually we will work to every student will have access to the app. Following the data entry, heads of department will then analyse all the data and spot trends, and they will be using ChatGPT from now on. I'm sure lots of them will like that. We've not done that before. And we do that using the subject analysis tool. So we're picking out trends by class, we're picking out trends by cohort, demographic of the cohort, and we're looking at distance really from minimum expected grade is normally our benchmark that we use. In addition, we also carried out a QLA of particularly milestones. All of those carry a question level analysis, and that's used to spot trends in the curriculum. Like we just saw there, picking out what ratio was an area that needed to be worked on within that maths one. When we've done that, we then have the Raising Standards meeting. That's led by the Progress Leader. I attend all of the Year 11 ones as Deputy Head for Standards, and I will attend one of the for every other year group. But that's about autonomy for the Progress Leader and handing ownership to them. We invite heads of department, and that's prioritised by performance data. So we don't do meetings for meeting's sake. We have the right people in the room for the right reasons. And we use the grade analysis and grade summary tool to determine that. So that's able to tell us where are weak spots in regards to attainment 8, where are weak spots in regards to the number of students off target. Intervention teachers are also there because quite often we have somebody who does some Key Stage 2 level intervention with Key Stage 3, so those who are significantly below. We might also have gaps within English, Maths and Science where we have people delivering interventions as well. Interventions, and I have to say they're largely classroom based. We don't do much in regards to, or don't feel the need to have to do much in regards to additional intervention. Um, Apart from in year 11, really, in year 11, we start then to look at additional revision sessions like most schools do. And we have a list, I think the list is now about 60 different strategies for things that can happen within the classroom. Small things like readjusting seating plans or group changes or speaking to parents or scaffolded activities. We add to that list within every raising standards meeting as well. So we have that there. So yeah, that'll work for this group, or we'll try that with this one. And then once we've agreed those, the students who are more significantly below, using all those analysis tools that we have, we arrange some parental meetings. But then we assign tags, and those tags are linked to whether they are basics 4 and 5 missing English, basics 4 or 5 missing maths, missing both. We might have a tag for an individual specific area of a curriculum. I'm trying it with subject leaders working on them at the moment. Previously, they've been whole school ones. But we will also then assign a tag for this student in your class requires this intervention that we've agreed, or they're going to be receiving this, so that you're aware. The great thing with tags is that you can filter by them as well. It allows you to be able to go to those students really easily. Department meetings then follow. We have department meetings within the timetable, and they happen once a fortnight. And that's where once a fortnight, certain interventions will be discussed. Again, we'll bring up the students who have been tagged within that class, and that's where we can then keep that monitoring of those students who have been flagged on the data entry. Line management meetings happen between the subject leader and the member of the leadership team, and again, we filter trackers by tags, and then the impact is reviewed there as well. And then it cycles back round. It cycles back round to the next milestone assessment. We look at the four pillars of that assessment again, and we go from there. And hopefully we see the impact it has, the impact that we intended to see. So that's really my whistle-stop tour on all the data goes in. What do we do with that data afterwards? And hopefully what I've demonstrated there, all those highlighted parts are different parts of the platform that Pupil Progress has that allows us to be able to utilise the richness of the data that goes in. So that's me done. Hopefully that's been useful.
Thank you so much, Jamie. That was really, really useful. And it's great to see how you're using all the tools at Pupil Progress to support all the teachers and the students at the Stonehenge School. So thank you so much for that insight. I am just going to share a couple of QR codes on the screen. If you want to learn more, there's a couple of QR codes there that go to our help centre. So the one on the top left is for how to tag students for intervention, and the one on the right is for about sharing resources with students and parents via the app, which I touched on during the session. Each school at Pupil Progress has a named customer account manager and customer success manager. So one of me, you might have me, you might have one of our team who are amazing. If you are interested in learning more, or you want some one-to-one support, or you want to book in a training session, which is all included in your package, please do drop us an email. There's that email address at the bottom, which is just accounts@pupilprogress.com. After this, just a reminder, you will receive an email with a copy of this session and a recording back, and you'll also receive some downloadable resources. So that checklist that Jamie referred to about best practice and use of the system will be included in there, as well as some use, the information I spoke about earlier about the prompts for ChatGPT and how you would fill in a wrap document. So there will be links in that email. Thank you everyone for your time, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. You can see the email address again on the screen there, and I'll just leave the QR codes there for a second. Thank you very much, and I hope to be in touch with you soon.